Somewhere in America right now, a woman is standing over an open dresser drawer, holding her late aunt's wedding ring. It's dull, scratched. The setting looks old-fashioned and slightly bent out of shape. She's already decided it's not worth much. She's wrong. Old wedding rings are one of the most quietly underestimated categories in all of vintage jewelry. Because unlike a flashy brooch or a pair of earrings, a wedding ring is designed to be modest. It's designed to disappear onto a hand and stay there for decades without drawing attention to itself. And that is exactly why so many of them get sold for almost nothing when they finally leave the family. Today, we're counting. Down 10 old wedding rings that collectors, dealers, and auction houses are paying serious money for right now. And there's a real chance one of them is sitting in a box in your house at this very moment. Number 10. Retro-era rose gold rings from the 1940s. Start with the ones people mistake for cheap the fastest, because rose gold has a reputation problem. It looks warm and soft and almost costume-like next to the cold white metal everybody associates with real diamonds today. But that pink gold color is not a budget choice. It's a wartime one. During the Second World War, platinum was declared a strategic metal and seized for military use, which meant jewelers across the country pivoted hard into gold alloys, and rose gold in particular, to keep making rings at all. The chunky, geometric, almost architectural designs from this decade, sometimes called retro-moderne, are now some of the most actively collected wedding and engagement rings of the entire 20th century. A retro-era ring with a center diamond and stylized rose gold shoulders can bring $1,200 to $3,500, depending on the stone, and the boldest cocktail-style designs with synthetic rubies or sapphires flanking the center diamond climb even higher because they photograph so dramatically for modern buyers. Here's what to check. Flip the ring over and look for a hallmark reading 14 karat or 18 karat, sometimes stamped alongside a jeweler's name rather than a big brand. Weight matters here too. These rings were built heavy, with thick shoulders and substantial shanks, because metal rationing pushed designers toward bold rather than delicate. If your grandmother's engagement ring feels unusually solid in your palm, that heaviness alone is telling you something. Number 9. Georgian-era rose-cut rings. This is the one almost nobody recognizes on sight, because a Georgian ring, meaning anything made roughly between 1714 and 1837, does not look like a diamond ring to modern eyes at all. The stones are rose-cut, flat on the bottom with a domed, faceted top, cut entirely by candlelight because electric lighting did not exist yet. Under any modern light source, a rose-cut diamond looks dim and almost cloudy compared to the fire of a modern, brilliant cut, which is exactly why families have historically assumed these rings were set with cheap glass. They were not. Many Georgian rings used foil backing behind the stone to bounce light back through it, a technique that looks like a red flag to an untrained eye and looks like exactly what it is to a specialist. A genuine Georgian ring with rose-cut diamonds in its original closed-back setting can sell for $2,000 to $8,000, and the rare mourning rings and acrostic rings, where the stones spell out a sentimental word by their first letters, have brought considerably more at specialist auctions. The test here is patience, not chemistry. Hold the ring up and look at the back of the setting. If it's a solid closed metal backing rather than an open modern setting, do not clean it, do not repolish it, and do not let anyone pop the stone out to remove tarnish. That closed back is original construction, and removing it can cut the ring's value in half overnight. Number 8. Edwardian platinum filigree rings. This is the decade, roughly 1901 to 1915, where jewelers finally figured out how to work platinum into lace. The metal is strong enough to be cut paper thin without collapsing, and Edwardian jewelers use that strength to build rings that look almost woven, garlands and bows and honeycomb piercing, surrounding a center stone like something out of an embroidery pattern. To a casual eye today, these rings look fragile and outdated, thin and gray and easy to dismiss next to a modern chunky halo setting. That thinness is the entire craft. A signed Edwardian platinum ring with a mine-cut or rose-cut diamond center, in good condition with the filigree intact, regularly brings $1,500 to $6,000. And the finest examples with caliber, cut sapphires bordering the center stone have crossed well into 5 figures. Look for platinum stamped as PLAE or a fineness mark like 950, and check the underside of the setting for millgrain, that tiny beaded edge detail applied by hand with a small wheel, 1 bead at a time. Machine reproductions cannot replicate that irregularity convincingly. If the beading looks slightly uneven under a loop, that unevenness is proof of a human hand, and it is exactly what collectors are paying for. Number 7. Signed Tiffany and Comey Belay's mountings. Here's the one that slips through the most estate sales completely unrecognized, because the name people are hunting for isn't even the name on the box. Tiffany and Company did not manufacture every ring it sold under its own roof in the early 20th century. For a period, the company partnered with a specialist mounting house called Belay Brothers to produce some of its finest platinum settings, and those rings frequently carry a small Belay mark alongside, or instead of, the Tiffany name people expect to see. A family finds an old ring with an unfamiliar stamp, assumes it's a random, no-name jeweler, and prices it accordingly. A documented Belay Tiffany platinum mounting from this era, with the original diamond intact, has sold for $4,000 to $12,000, depending on the center stone's size and clarity, precisely because so few buyers know to look for that connection. The tell is in the fine engraving inside the shank, sometimes reading Belay alone, sometimes paired with a Tiffany reference number. If you own an old platinum ring with an unfamiliar maker's mark and a genuinely fine center stone, do not assume unfamiliar means unimportant. In this particular corner of the market, the opposite is usually true. Number 6. Native American turquoise and silver wedding sets from the Southwest. For most of the last century, couples traveling through Arizona and New Mexico picked up handmade silver wedding bands set with turquoise as an alternative to traditional gold rings, often bought directly from the artisan at a trading post for a modest price. Those rings got worn for a honeymoon, tucked away when a more conventional set was purchased later, and largely forgotten. Here is what changed. Several of the most productive turquoise mines in the Southwest, including sources prized for their distinctive matrix patterns, have closed permanently over the past few decades. A closed mine means the exact stone in that ring can never be replicated again at any price. Vintage Zuni and Navajo silver wedding bands with hand-set turquoise now sell for $250 to $900, and pieces attributable to a known silversmith with a signed hallmark on the inside of the band climb considerably higher. Look for a sterling stamp and hand-cut stones with slight natural irregularity in the matrix, the fine web-like veining running through the turquoise. Perfectly uniform blue with no matrix at all is frequently a sign of stabilized or reconstituted stone rather than the untouched, high-grade material collectors are chasing. Now, before we get into the top 5, there's something almost nobody tells you about old wedding rings specifically. Unlike a brooch or a necklace, a ring gets worn every single day for years, sometimes decades, which means the exact details that determine its value, the hallmark inside the band, the cut of the stone, the way the setting was constructed, wear down and become harder to read the longer a ring stays on someone's hand. That's the trap. The most valuable rings are often the ones that have been loved the hardest, and loved the hardest is exactly the condition that makes their value the easiest to miss. Knowing what to look for, the metal purity marks, the maker's hallmarks, the diamond cutting style, the construction technique behind the setting is the difference between selling a ring for scrap and understanding what you're actually holding. That's exactly why I put together the jeweler's dirty secret. Inside, I break down the markings, quality indicators, and valuation principles that professional jewelers use to identify valuable pieces, so you can recognize what you own before it's sold for a fraction of what it's worth. Whether you've inherited a ring, found one at an estate sale, or you're just curious what's sitting in your own jewelry box, This guide will change the way you look at every ring you come across. You can get it right now by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on your screen. Now let's get back to the countdown. Number 5, natural pearl wedding rings. This is the entry that fools people the hardest because almost every pearl sold in the last 100 years is cultured, meaning a farmer deliberately started the pearl growing inside the oyster. If your ring predates roughly the 1920s, though, there's a real chance the pearl inside it formed entirely on its own in the wild, with no human intervention at all, and that single distinction rewrites the entire value conversation. Cultured pearl rings typically resell for a few $100s, pleasant but unremarkable. Natural pearl rings start around $1,000, and the finest documented examples have sold for well over $50,000 because natural pearls are so scarce today that they almost never appear in ordinary jewelry stores anymore. They surface in old family collections, in museum donations, and occasionally in an auction house catalog when someone finally has one tested. Here is the warning that matters most. You cannot tell a natural pearl from a cultured one by looking at it, and neither can a pawn shop, a jeweler on the corner, or frankly, anyone without laboratory equipment. Only an X-ray examination at a proper gem lab can determine what's actually inside the pearl, whether it grew around a natural irritant or a manufactured bead nucleus. That test costs a small fraction of what a genuine natural pearl is worth, and it is the only way to know for certain whether your grandmother's simple pearl ring is sentimental or genuinely extraordinary. Number 4, old European cut and old mine cut diamond solitaires. If you've inherited a diamond ring where the stone looks chunky, slightly asymmetrical, with a noticeably large, flat facet you can practically see straight through in the center, resist the urge to call it flawed or old-fashioned. That cut is called an old mine cut, or, in its later refinement, an old European cut, and it was shaped entirely by hand before diamond cutting became mechanized in the early 20th century. Jewelers stopped cutting stones this way by around the 1930s, which means the supply is permanently fixed and will never grow again. The market has responded accordingly. Old mine and old European cut diamond rings now start around $2,000, average closer to $8,000, and the finest documented antique examples have been listed well above $100,000, particularly when the original setting survives intact alongside the stone. Here's the mistake that has quietly destroyed more value than almost anything else on this list. All through the 1980s and 1990s, families routinely brought these rings to modern jewelers to have the old stones recut into contemporary round brilliance, chasing more sparkle under fluorescent light. Every single one of those recuts erased the antique value permanently and turned an irreplaceable historical stone into an ordinary modern diamond worth a fraction of what it was. If your ring stone still has that slightly crooked, old-world character your family once found embarrassing, do not let anyone touch it before an appraiser who specializes specifically in antique diamonds has seen it in person. Number 3, Victorian mourning and sentiment rings. This entry unsettles people, and I understand exactly why. We're talking about rings incorporating black enamel, jet, and occasionally woven human hair, worn to commemorate a marriage cut short by death, a tradition that exploded into a full industry after Queen Victoria went into permanent mourning following Prince Albert's passing. Casual sellers today can't get these out of the house fast enough, and that discomfort is precisely why the demand stays soft while the craftsmanship stays extraordinary. A genuine Victorian mourning ring in 18-karat gold, with black enamel banding and a woven hair compartment intact behind glass, has sold for $600 to $2,500, with the rare examples incorporating diamonds or a painted miniature portrait climbing considerably higher. The detail most people miss entirely is that many of these rings double as wedding or betrothal rings, inscribed inside the band with names, dates, or a short sentiment in tiny hand-engraved script. Check the interior of the shank under strong light or a loupe before you do anything else with an old black-banded ring. That inscription is often the single detail that transforms an unsettling curiosity into a documented piece of personal history a collector will actively pay to own. Number 2. Signed art. Deco platinum and diamond rings, particularly Cartier and Van Cleef and Arpels mountings. The 1920s produced some of the most geometrically precise jewelry ever made. Sharp lines, caliber-cut sapphires, and emeralds set in tight symmetrical borders around a central diamond. All of it built in platinum because the metal held those crisp edges in a way gold never could. But a documented signed example from one of the major French houses is an entirely different category of asset. A Cartier Art Deco engagement ring with its maker's marks confirmed has sold at auction for over $50,000. And a Van Cleef and Arpels example from the same era has crossed 6 figures when the design and provenance both check out. The signature is typically engraved in small, precise lettering along the inside of the shank, sometimes accompanied by a serial number that the house itself can verify against historical production records if you contact them directly. If you own an Art Deco ring with genuinely fine caliber-cut stonework and you've never had the interior of the band examined under magnification, that 5-minute check could be the difference between a beautiful heirloom and a genuinely life-changing asset. Number 1. Plain solid gold wedding bands. The ones nobody thinks are worth photographing. This is the least glamorous entry on the entire list, and it may be the single most profitable one for the person watching right now. Forget craftsmanship, forget maker's marks, forget history entirely for a moment, because gold is currently trading above $5,000 per ounce, roughly double what it was worth just a few years ago. And most people simply have not caught up mentally to what that means for the plain, unremarkable band sitting at the bottom of their jewelry box. A basic 14-karat gold wedding band that would have been dismissed as worth almost nothing a decade ago can now carry several $100s in pure melt value based on weight alone. And a heavy 18 or 22-karat band from an older, more generous era of ring-making can be worth considerably more than that. It doesn't need to be beautiful. It doesn't need to be intact. A bent, scratched, or even broken band melts down for exactly the same value as a pristine one. The test is simple, and you can do it tonight. Look inside the band for a stamp reading 10 karat, 14 karat, 18 karat, or a number like 585, 750, or 916, which tells you the exact purity you're holding. Weigh it on a kitchen scale, look up today's melt value online using that purity number, and get quotes from at least 3 different buyers before a single ring leaves your hand. Because the first offer from any single buyer is almost never the best one. The plain gold band your family stopped wearing decades ago is quietly worth more today than at any point in your entire lifetime. Every ring on this list survived because someone, somewhere, decided it was worth keeping even after the occasion that gave it meaning had passed. That instinct was right more often than anyone realized. So before you sell, donate, or melt down a single old wedding ring, go find every one your family still has and turn each one over. Read the inside of the band, check the setting, look for the marks nobody ever taught you to look for until now. Hit the like button if even one of these surprised you today. Subscribe to the channel because we go this deep on every single video we make. And drop a comment telling me which ring on this list you think might be sitting in your own jewelry box right now. I read every one of them, I promise you that. And whatever you do, no matter how ordinary that old ring looks, don't sell it before you check.